10. The Saturn sphere. The Jupiter sphere does not bring us to the end of the descriptions of the planetary system of our cosmos. The next sphere to mention is the Saturn sphere. Like the Mars sphere, this sphere is very hard to contact, and only a well-trained sphere magician should dare to embark upon it after having gone through different initiating systems with a few original intelligences and after having gathered much experience, during the course of many years, in mental wanderings to the individual spheres and thus feeling almost at home in them. Not every human being is strong enough to stand up against the oscillations of the Saturn sphere, since they have the depressing quality of a nightmare. The Saturn sphere is, in fact, the so-called sphere of karma. Its intelligences may be regarded from man's rational intellectual point of view, the judges of all beings, planets and spheres. From the magical quabbalistic point of view, direct contact with any of these judges has no practical value. If, however, the magician considers himself mature enough and well acquainted with the spheres, he might as well try to get into contact also with the intelligences of the Saturn sphere. I desist, however, from giving any description of the individual intelligences of the Saturn sphere, even from mentioning their names and seals, for it could so happen that some presumptuous human being, without thinking of the consequences, would dare to call up a Saturn being by evocation. If the person is, in such a case, not strong enough to resist the vibration of that Saturn intelligence, not only his physical, but also his astral death becomes unavoidable. Therefore a general description of this sphere will suffice for the mature and wise, and such will, in spite of such a short description, be able to get a clear picture of the effectiveness of the Saturn sphere. The few Saturn intelligences that have been mentioned in known books written by authors such as Agrippa, Conrad, and others, are not the highest intelligences of this sphere and have, in general, only a subordinated range of competence when compared with the genuine original intelligences of the Saturn sphere, 49 in number. The already known intelligences named Agile, Aratron, Cassiel, Mukatan, Ural, etc., have, therefore, not much importance in the Saturn sphere and are by no means original intelligences. However, they show a certain affection for the zone girdling the earth, are friendlier with the magician and therefore also easier to get into contact with. What these intelligences can offer the magician in respect of magic and quabella, the latter is sure to get to know much more from the intelligences of any other planet's sphere. I am talking in this respect from the point of view of personal experience, and every magician is able to find out the truth of these words himself. What, for instance, Aratron can offer the magician, each of the 360 heads of the zone girdling the earth can also do, without the magician having to travel to the Saturn sphere. The same is true of Agile and the other so-called intelligences of the Saturn sphere mentioned in the common grimoires. During wanderings, in my mental body, through the Saturn sphere a long time ago, I personally came across Agile and Aratron and conversed with them, so I am recording here personal experience. As far as the 49 original intelligences of the Saturn sphere are concerned, it should be mentioned that they are responsible for the original karmic principle of all spheres, especially for the doings and effectiveness of all the negative beings of each sphere, beginning with our physical world. In accordance with divine providence, they allow for the bad effects of negative beings. They are in charge of the powers and effects of the principle of destruction in the whole cosmic hierarchy. They see that justice is done and, depending on the approval of divine providence, let negative effects become reality by their subordinate beings. The Saturn intelligences allow wars not only on our planet, but wherever love and hate exist. They let the negative principle work up to a certain point and they are the ones that have to judge rigorously upon human beings and beings of all spheres in accordance with divine orderliness and legality. Therefore the Saturn intelligences are regarded as the so-called judges and executors of fate in the word's highest sense. Moreover, they decide upon how long magicians who have concluded a pact with beings negative or positive, have to remain under the power of the relevant beings. Each original intelligence of the Saturn sphere has a certain range of power, they have each a certain planet and a certain sphere under their command. If the sphere magician is interested in learning about the range of effectiveness of any one original initiator of the Saturn sphere, about his influence and subordinated planet, he can get exact information from a subordinated intelligence like a Gil or Aratron. From what has been said here, the magician will gather that he need not actually avoid the Saturn sphere, but he will less care to contact its 49 original intelligences. It is not a pleasure to see the doings of negative beings or to watch mentally how they are controlled and punished. One needs strong nerves and a strong mental steadfastness to do that. So much about the Saturn sphere. The seals of Agil, Aratron and the other inferior intelligences of the Saturn sphere are generally known. Every magician will take heed not to reveal the names and the seals of the 49 original intelligences of this sphere to any immature person and will fully understand why I desist from giving details.